My video yesterday was talking about Catholic education, and a Mr. Morrissey sent me on an article, and he said if I wanted to comment on it, I was free to do so. And it's really well written. And I just thought I'd read out this article about the challenges with Catholic education and Catholic ethos in Irish schools. And the title is Why the Catholic Church Should Divest from Most Catholic Ethos Schools in Ireland. The Catholic Church in Ireland stands at a crossroads. For decades it has been the foundation of education in the country, yet times have changed, and with them so too have the attitudes of students and communities towards Catholic education. While the Catholic Church remains committed to its mission, there is a strong argument for withdrawing from the majority of Catholic ethos schools in Ireland with an act of courage and fidelity to the faith. The proposal is not about abandoning Catholic education altogether, but rather about redefining it. The Church should strategically withdraw from the bulk of its schools while keeping one centrally located Catholic ethos school in each county. I mean, if you look at the number of schools in Ireland, there's 3,294 primary schools and 702 secondary schools in Ireland. I would say at least 50% of those schools need to be handed back to the state or leased to the state. There is no point in continuing with the current situation. If you look at you have priests or on many boards of management of different primary schools. This is a waste of their time and a waste of the church's time and a waste of the school's time when Catholics aren't getting Catholic children aren't getting a Catholic education. We know from surveys that many of the primary school teachers that are teaching the faith don't practice the faith. That is a very sad situation. Imagine trying to teach something to somebody that you don't understand or practice. So your heart isn't in the mission. It's a waste of time. And, we need to face facts that the church needs to strengthen itself, retreat and strengthen itself. The church has a long history of standing firm when the world pulls in a different direction. From its early days of persecution to its defense of the faith in the face of modern secularism, the church has always prided itself on courageously following its principles, even when they are unpopular. In fact, the very heart of the gospel calls Christians to take up their cross and to follow Christ, often in the face of adversity and criticism. Divesting from most Catholic schools in Ireland would be an act of this very kind of courage. It would be a recognition that the current model, where the church maintains the majority stake in education, is no longer serving the faith or the students as well. That's a fact. It's a statement of fact. Getting a teacher to teach something they don't practice or love or understand is pointless. It's a waste of time. And it should be stopped immediately. Only those that practice and love the faith should teach the faith. In many Catholic ethos schools today, students are largely unresponsive to religious teachings. They may attend religion classes or what do they call it? Religious education classes, but their engagement with the faith, both intellectually and spiritually, is shallow at best. The values of secularism have taken deep root in Irish society, and many young children are simply not interested in the Catholic message in a meaningful way. By withdrawing from most schools, the church would not be signalling defeat, but rather a shift in strategy. Just as the apostles instructed to shake the dust off your feet when their message was rejected, Matthew 10:14, the church should acknowledge that its broad involvement in education is no longer bearing fruit it once did. Instead of spreading itself thin, the church should focus on its resources and energy on a few key schools where Catholic identity can truly flourish. The idea of withdrawing from hostile or indifferent environments is not new to the church. In the Bible, Jesus advises his disciples to leave places where they are not welcomed or heard. In Matthew 10:14, he instructs his followers, "If anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet when you leave the house or town." This teaching is not about giving up, but about focusing efforts where they are most likely to succeed. Similarly, in Acts of the Apostles 13:51, when Barnabas and Paul faced opposition from Jewish leaders in Antioch, they shook the dust off their feet, a symbol of moving on from an unwelcoming environment. When they shook off the dust from their feet against them and went to Iconium. This act of moving on without harbouring resentment exemplifies the apostolic approach to evangelization. Focus on communities that are open to receiving the gospel. St. John Chrysostom, one of the most influential church fathers, elaborated on this teaching in his homilies on the Gospel of Matthew. Commenting on Matthew 10:14, he explains that Jesus did not instruct his apostles to punish those who reject the faith, but simply to shake off the dust and move on, signifying the severing of ties even at the most basic level. For he did not say punish them, but rather shake off the dust off your feet, showing them that they had received nothing from them, and that they were not even so much as to carry anything of theirs along with them. Chrysostom further exemplifies the futility of trying to force the gospel upon unwilling bearers. Correct. His teaching encourages the apostles, and by extension the church, to wisely use their resources where they can bear fruit. If people are hostile or indifferent, the church should move on without guilt, recognizing that its mission is to evangelize those who are receptive. This teaching, coupled with the example of Barnabas and Paul in Acts, underscores the wisdom of focusing efforts where the faith can be nurtured. St. John Chrysostom's interpretation highlights that the act of moving on is not about defeat, but about practical evangelization, allowing the message of the gospel to take root in fertile soil. Just as the apostles and the early church leaders focused their efforts on communities that were open to the faith, the Catholic Church in Ireland must also recognise when and where its message is being rejected and ignored. And bishops need to get their heads out of the sand and recognise that the Catholic message, the gospel message, the Christian message is being rejected and ignored and being replaced by the anti-gospel. And so it's time to withdraw from those schools. If you go into a school and they have pride flags all over the school, and you have the so-called Catholic ethos and that school, it's either one thing goes or the other thing goes. And it's time for bishops to recognize this, the church to recognize this, and to focus its resources on where you can evangelize. Because at the moment, the Irish church is spread so thin that its mission has been diluted so much it's not effective. For these students, the Catholic teaching often seem irrelevant in their daily lives. They may go through the motions, attending Mass, if the one Mass that they might have a year, or special occasions, or participation in religious events because they have to, but there is little depth in their involvement. This is not surprising given the secular environment that they live. The broader Irish society has become increasingly secularized, and Catholic teachings often feel out of step with the values they encounter in media, politics, and even at home. Teachers themselves, many of whom are not deeply committed to the faith, may contribute to this disconnect. While some are devout and strive to integrate Catholic values into their teaching, many others treat religious curriculum as just another subject to be taught. Without a deep personal commitment to the faith, these teachers are unlikely to inspire a genuine interest in the engagement among students. One Catholic school per county, strong rooted in the faith. Instead of trying to maintain a wide network of schools with a diluted Catholic ethos or no Catholic ethos, the Church should focus on establishing one strongly Catholic school in each county. These schools should be unapologetically Catholic unapologetically faithful to Catholic teaching, and would be staffed by teachers and administrators who are committed to living and teaching the Catholic faith. In these schools, Catholic identity would not be an afterthought, but the very foundation of the curriculum and church culture. Students would attend Mass regularly, participate in the sacraments, and would frequent opportunities for spiritual growth. Bishops and priests would be actively involved, visiting the schools regularly to provide guidance and support. Moreover, these schools would not shy away from teaching the more challenging aspects of the faith. In a world that often values comfort and convenience, these schools would stand as a countercultural witness to the gospel. They would teach students that following Christ is not easy, but it is a path to true freedom and fulfillment. This model would allow the Catholic Church to concentrate its resources on schools that truly reflect its mission and values, instead of trying to maintain a large network of schools with a weak Catholic identity. The Church would focus on a smaller number of schools where the faith is lived out fully and authentically. A necessary step. The Catholic Church in Ireland faces a difficult but necessary choice. By withdrawing from the majority of Catholic Ethos schools, the Church would be showing the courage that has always defined its leadership. This decision would not be a retreat, but a strategic move to refocus on what it truly matters: providing a deeply Catholic education to those who are open to receiving it. In keeping one school per county, the Church would ensure that its education mission continues, but in a way that is faithful, in a faithful way that is unapologetically rooted to the gospel. Anyway, this is an article that was published. I mean, you would map it out into the country. I mean, you've 700 secondary schools, so-called Catholic secondary schools. In this town where I live, there's 3 of them. None of them are Catholic. That's the simple truth of it, guys. None of them foster a real, living, connected understanding of the Catholic faith. And, as a teacher, as somebody who's taught in a secondary school, you're not always going to see results in students. You have to do a lot of sowing, of instilling in them. But we're not even doing that. I remember in the secondary school, we would have retreats. The students would go away for a weekend, and it would be part and parcel of the school curriculum. And they learned a lot. They liked many of these things. And it's time for the Irish Catholic Church to really bite the bullet. I mean, religious communities have been closing all around Ireland simply because they do not have the numbers to maintain buildings. And we've seen convents and monasteries close around Ireland. It is time to do the same with Catholic schools that don't have a Catholic ethos in practice. It really is, guys. I guarantee you, if the Catholic Church was to close half of the Catholic Ethos schools in Ireland, the other half that would remain Catholic, parents would be beating down the doors to get their kids into those schools. Let's face facts. Ireland, Catholicism is a minority religion in Ireland in practice. Really. Let's not kid ourselves. The last abortion referendum clearly shows where the divide lies. I mean, if we can't respect the unborn child as a Catholic, we have departed from the Catholic faith, and we've saw that. And so, why not give the 800,000 or the 1 million Catholics that are left in Ireland who, believe in the faith, why not give them, their kids, an opportunity to have a Catholic education in a Catholic school in Ireland? I guarantee you. And the schools with a truly Catholic ethos, truly Catholic education, with prayer, with mission, with sacraments, where the faith is put first. Those schools produce students who go on usually to have very high standards in life. They do. High entrance into third level, high, and parents realize this. That's why even non-Catholics often send their kids to Catholic schools where there's a strong Catholic ethos, because they understand there's a discipline there that will help their kids. And it is time, guys. It is time. The Catholic Church needs to refocus resources in Ireland, and reform can't come quick enough. The merging of dioceses in Ireland can't come quick enough. Stop dragging your feet. Oh, when are we going to merge Killala and Tuam? It could be done in 2 weeks. Finito. The new diocese of Killala and Tuam, end of story, with its bishop, Archbishop Francis Duffy. Finito. Done. Now we move forward. Not 2 structures, 2 dioceses, 2 this. Focus on the mission of the church. Evangelization, to give the good news. It is time to start shaking dust off the shoes of the people that don't want to hear the faith. Christ never came to bully people to believe his message. He offers it. And people were free to receive him or free to reject him. Let's start offering the gospel anew to Ireland. Concentrate our resources where they need to be focused. Have one truly Catholic school in a certain, say, in a 40-kilometre radius or 30-kilometre radius. It's the reality. Bring the preparation for sacraments back into the parish. Before Mass on a Sunday or after Mass on a Sunday, spend an hour for catechesis and sacramental preparation. Why not? Is the saddest thing that we lump religion along other sacraments. It is killing the faith. It is killing the faith, especially in schools where the majority of teachers don't practice the faith. I am speaking the reality here. You can hang on to the 3,294 primary schools and the 702 secondary schools. Hang on to them if you want. But you don't have the resources to maintain them. We don't have it's a simple truth. There isn't the resources there. And spreading yourselves too thin isn't going to renew the faith. I guarantee you, if we were to have, say, 100 to 200 Catholic secondary schools in Ireland, but Catholic, with a Catholic ethos, sacraments, prayer life, Catholic instruction, where we had Catholic education, not this hodgepodge religious education that is the death knell of Catholicism in Ireland. Give it up. If you want to teach philosophy of religions, make it a subject, philosophy of religions. But lumping it all together, this ecumenical thing that they have, serves nobody, nothing. If you had 200 Catholic schools, Catholic parents would be beating down the doors to get their kids in there. If you had 1,000 Catholic primary schools instead of 3,000, Catholic parents would be beating down the doors to get their kids into those primary schools. And you set a new standard. This is the education we're going to give. This is the standard we're going to give. And we'd be unapologetic. This is what we're offering. If you want it, fine. If you don't, there's lots of other schools. Move on. In 20, 30 years, those Catholic schools will be thriving and full. And you will have quabbles about trying to get admission into there, because they'll be the best schools. Whereas the state schools, we see it in the States. A lot of people look for private schools, look for Catholic schools because they've got good education. See where it goes. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.